All right, let's see here. EMS live. Should have done this when I was setting up. Um, what's up, y'all? Hey, Forestine. Hey, Archaic Electro. Let's turn off me. There we go. Welcome to this week's What the Heck. Today we have Cute Story down here, and we're gonna go through and do a case redesign today. I'm kind of excited about it because there's so many options, and we thought it'd be cool if y'all could provide your input as well. Like, what do you want to see in it, that kind of thing. So, do you want to do a quick intro, Cute Story? Like, who are you, and what's the most recent module you've acquired?
A cute story. I am a filmmaker, and this is a hobby of mine. And my most recent module acquisition was Stolper Beats.
Stolper is it's
Yeah.
one of those modules that's like, that's actually perfect. I want to come back to this in a second, but it's one of those modules that I think is a brilliant design, brilliant execution, and makes me want it so much. Even if I didn't know what it did, I want it. Um, it's just outside of the genre I usually make, so I haven't
Mhm.
I've been able to resist a little bit.
Very
Um,
good.
yeah, and uh, I think as far as like, I'm Hex Seven. I make mediocre music, and the most recent module I acquired is technically actually the another pair of uh, rack plumbers. So because I realized right before falling asleep, hey, I could put one in the big Cosmo right behind me, and then I only have one cable between the two, and I can send things like CV and clock signals and an audio back and forth between the two cases across the room with like Cat 5 cable or whatever the cable is. I should probably get that cable too. It comes with a short one. Well, short. It's good for like a large case, but not like across
Right.
the room. So yeah, so let's get into it. Yeah, so this is your case. Like, who's the manufacturer, and like,
This is a Needham
give us
that
an
I
intro
got.
to the problem we're solving today.
So this is a Needham I got secondhand, and filled it with modules fairly quickly, and swap things in and out, put things in other cases, and then sort of found myself in a place where I didn't really have a usable system anymore. So the idea is to, we picked a couple of voices already and a couple of other things, but, fill it out with other stuff that I already have is
Right,
the
like,
idea.
let's make this thing a fun system to play, right? Like, that's
Exactly.
the initial goal. Um, and this is where, like, I need all y'all's help because I don't actually know a lot about some of the a lot of the modules that you have, like, um, so I'm going off of, like, is it a filter? Okay, like, we can use that for a filter, like, that kinda thing versus, like, I know nothing about the assimilator, for example, other than it has a cool name and a cool panel. It looks like
Right.
a lot of inputs and outputs. Um, so yeah, there's a ton of modules. We could do a quick scroll through of the modules you own, or like
Yep.
folks can yeah. So we're looking at the module list, and just hang out there for a second and let folks peruse. Like, there's a lot of good stuff in here. And some of the things we talked about a little bit are that I think for a system to be fun, like, all you need is like really a couple of voices and some drums. Like, you don't necessarily even have to do the drums in the rack, but like typically, like, most groove boxes, most sequencers, they have like three synth channels and then like some drum channels, right? Like, I think that's a good number for a reason. And that's typically what I use in my tracks most of the time. Like, I'll
Hmm.
have like a bass, a lead, maybe a second synth here and there, or a
Hmm.
third synth, I guess, and then the drums. And then anything else, like if I want to add some candy, like ear candy or things, that's where you start to get into like either effects or like uh, single purpose modules. Like, I like, I have this thing uh, called Lucifer by Error Instruments that essentially replaced the need for me to have like a full Atari punk console sitting next to my system, because it has that like nice like sort of modemy sound. And that one, like, I don't even put through any filters, just like like just I like this kind of ear candy thing. So there's a handful of stuff you could add like that, but I think I want to focus just on like making a couple of voices and the drums, and then from there it's like, let's talk about effects.
All
uh,
right.
that sound good to everybody? um,
Yeah. So I scrolled through all of them.
yeah. There's a lot of options in here and a lot of good stuff. If anything you are like super excited about, like, let us know in the chat and we'll figure it out. But I think one of the things also I want to keep in mind is that we should keep a lot of open space in this rack, so it's like easier to swap things in and out as you're like
Hmm.
feeling out what you like. Um, so that's something else to keep in mind. Do you? Yeah. Let's see. Schmooster. Schmooster said they've been thinking about a lead section, a backing section, a group of drum sections, and then effect lines and incidentals that are spread out more. Yeah, I mean, that's typically how I have my stuff set up. And I'm not an expert. I don't have a perfect system, but I watched a lot of other videos. Like Colin Benders had some nice, very long videos where he like laid all of his modules out on the floor and like did what you're doing, right? Like, he has a lot of options, you have a lot of options, and then like figuring out how to make some sense out of that chaos. And all of my good ideas, or the things that I like anyway, are like stolen from Colin and other folks that helped Colin out.
Yes, I'm hoping to steal as well.
Yeah, and they're like essentially districts, right? Like I have a voice set up like back to front, like in one area, and I have another voice below that. And the reason I like those kind of below each other or next to each other is I can sort of mix and match oscillators and filters and like utilities here and there, right? But if I just want a standard voice, it's like right there. And he talked about that as sort of districts. Like, he has enough stuff that he had like two huge cases he was doing at the time, I think. And so he had like a drums district and like
Hmm.
actually a polyphonic district.
Hmm.
And I think that concept of like districts makes a lot of sense to me. Um, it doesn't prevent you from doing weird stuff across the system, but it means that like when you do want like a standard voice, you don't have to like have too much as much cable spaghetti, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's modular. It's sort of inevitable that like something's going to go all the way across your system at some point. But the more you can reduce that, I think the better. Um, yeah, the most versatile positions. Right. And yeah, a lot of modules have outputs on the right side, and inputs on the left. And I also rearrange my case based on that, like where things are. So I have a drums row with one exception. My hats actually have their jacks on the top. So I have them the row below so that their distance to like where they plug in is pretty low. Things like that I do take into account.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm like not twiddling the knobs on the hats that often, so it doesn't matter too much. Um, all right, so what we've already looked at is these are like some like essentials that are necessary. Like you got the performance mixer LE, which is like performance mixer with some additional channels and stuff. Super cool. Um, Next to that, well, right above that are like outs for when you want to go to your computer, which makes
Mm-hmm.
a lot of sense. I've done something similar with where I've got like my inputs and stuff like that. Like it makes sense. Um, and you've got like a little drum district already going with Stolper beats, Euclidean sequencer, assimilator, and quad drums.
Mm-hmm.
And your clock is down in the bottom left. Um, I don't know a good spot. Like I don't have Pams, so I don't know how folks like to use it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
for I know a few of you in the chat use Pams. Like, where would you, if you had a system like this, where would you put Pams? Would you put it like smack in the center, bottom left, and like distribute out via mults or something? Like where should Pams go? Uh, is a good question. Um, and then towards the top, we started putting together some voices. So you've got like the start of like an Erica Synths voice, not specifically because it's all Erica Synths, but because those modules happen to work well together. Like the filter has two inputs, which works well with two of the VCOs, that kind of thing. Um, yeah, Bartok's tried a few methods. Like I've seen Bartok rearrange some cases too, and that helped me out. um, Yeah, so I think some things that we're missing on the voice. Let's start with that first voice because I think that's a simple place to move while people are answering questions. We need some sort of VCA and we need some sort of filter. No, you've already got the filter, so we just need a VCA and an envelope. Um, you could potentially just use the performance mixer's built-in VCA in this scenario because the filter has a single out, but
Mm-hmm.
if you want to do stereo outs, it might make sense to have a VCA that has such a multiple VCA, that kind of stuff.
Well, I have the Fusion VCA that I could use.
I don't know anything about that, so you could use that. Um, uh, I mean, is it a dual VCA or a single or what?
Hold on one second here.
No worries. While you're doing that, I'm gonna look at the chat.
Uh, it went away. There it is. Two
Okay.
inputs.
Okay, so it's got two inputs, two outputs, and then a combination output. That's pretty perfect. You could use that if you would like. Um, and then it does match everything next to it. And then we need an envelope.
Well, there, there's
And Bartok and Forrestine, I think, both agree in that PAMS should go close to what it will trigger, and then it should be easily accessible. So Bartok's saying it should essentially be on like the same row, but maybe on the left or right, depending on what makes sense. So wherever it's going to trigger stuff, put it to the left.
Probably here.
Yeah. I think if I'm reading that correctly. And I do think at some point, rack plumbers there's a few different modules that do the same thing. One a pair of those might be good, so you could like send some signals around the case pretty easily. That's a good question. Will Pam be the master clock?
Probably outboard sequencer is going to be the master clock, and I would be using Pams to distribute the clock.
Okay, so like Oxy 1 to Pams, and then Pams to distribute clock and like do some clock dividing and stuff like that or whatever.
Yeah, so I would have the Oxy Pipe here, which
Okay.
is not on the thing, not on modular grid, but I could put it there for now.
Is it called Oxy Pipe?
Yeah.
See if you can search it up and then click there's a little checkbox for like unofficial modules. It might show up like that.
Oops, not Erica Synths.
And then there's like a show unofficial modules or something like that.
Show other unknown. No.
Maybe just delete pipe just to see if Oxy shows up anything. I'd be surprised if it. Oh, there we go.
There
it is, right there. Yeah. Pro tip, everybody. This is how how I got those Look Mom No Computer modules to show up. They were actually in there already.
The nightmare.
We all deal with this. Like, why did the assimilator go away? It wasn't anywhere near it. Anyway.
All right.
Cool. So we got the Oxy Pipe in near Pam's. Cool. Perfect. You've got most of a voice, but we need an envelope now to essentially control the VCA and maybe some other parameters of the voice.
I mean, there's this.
Can we zoom in on? Well, add it and zoom in, I guess. Let's take a look. Is this like Erica's maths? Okay, so we've got some VCAs in and out, or a VCA in and out. Okay. Clock in, CV in.
I mean, I have other. Let's see.
Yeah, I think that would be better as what it says, like a modulator. So like something separate from your typical envelopes. But I've never used it, so I don't
know. Stages, maybe.
Stages is a good envelope.
Or tides. Philly Street.
Balustry has some nice snappy ones.
Maestro.
Do you have a full like ADSR envelope? I mean, Stages and I think Tides can maybe do it. I don't know much about Tides.
Well, Stages for sure. Did I just do this? Yeah, that's how I got this. LFO. Let's throw that in there. Yeah, Stages might be your best bet for this voice. Or, I mean, Falistry can definitely do it because Falistry has some like nice exponential envelopes, right? And with those, you can get some sort of snappy, like a high transient bass or lead or whatever. Yeah, I would go with either one of those. I mean, let's just grab both of those because one or the other, like, let's put one by one voice and one by the other voice, kind of. Okay.
And then I would bump your Egon matrix matrix, geez. The Egan matrix and the polycinematic may be down near, I don't know, let's just get them out of the way for a minute.
All
This
right.
doesn't matter too much just yet. The Egan matrix sounds, for those of you who haven't heard it, are just incredible. Anything that company makes is amazing.
Yeah, I have all three of their form factors.
Yeah. This is one case. Can you switch over to that image again, just so Bartok can see real quick of the case? This is the case, Bartok. It's a Needham spaceship.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And I'm sort of jealous that you can actually like touch the outside of your case without being injured. Like mine is
Yeah.
not powered.
No sharp edges.
Yeah. So it's all one case, which is sort of why I'm thinking like a rack plumber or something would be good, because you could, if you wanted to go bottom left or top right corner or something like that. I don't know, whatever works best for you, but that I find that pretty handy on occasion. So that would be a good like future module list thing. But all right, let's go back to the modular grid. I'm sorry, I'm like backseat driving, but there's no
No, it's cool.
better way. And if any of you have suggestions on what we should be using, like just drop them in the chat. Like, I want to avoid like too many new module suggestions, because I feel like you've already got like a pretty
I've
solid set.
got plenty.
I think you could use maybe some more like utilities here and there, but we'll figure that out in a minute. Okay, let's start this second voice, right? Like we've got stages there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you liked the wavetable navigator. Should that be your primary oscillator on this one?
Maybe.
I don't know. Let's look at the oscillator again. Oscillator choices.
There are lots.
There are so many. Castor and Pollux.
2 of those, 2 Castor and Pollux.
You have two Castors and 2 Polluxes. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm just skimming through. So right now you've got like a sick monophonic analog voice, like fusion pretty much all the way through. Like that can be really smooth or really gnarly. I think a good counterpart to that might be a digital oscillator. So something with some complexity or FM or something. So like maybe the spherical wavetable navigator would be a good one here, or the Polygogo. I don't know anything about the Polygogo, but that could be a cool one too.
I love this thing. Let's put it in.
Yeah, and add lots of space, or like I don't know. Like I think it's okay to have gaps at first until you like figure out what you like.
Did I just?
Like, I don't even bother with buttons anymore.
Oh, here it is. All right.
And then next to that, we should definitely have a filter, because I've heard a bunch of demos of that, and I think that one, while sometimes it doesn't really need a filter, I think having a filter to sort of tame some of the more aggressive high pitches and things like that is really nice. And you've got an analog filter
here and 2 cinnamons, and then some more stuff available down here.
I would put a cinnamon and a Volt Freak right next to it. You may not, you probably won't use both at the same time, but it gives you some options all in the right neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay, and then let's see here. So you've got, and I don't know much about the spherical wavetable navigator. Is that something that plays nicely with, like, does it have a stereo output or multiple thing outs?
Yes.
So that might be, yeah, I think the spherical wavetable navigator plus cinnamon, like cinnamons are, I really like it. It's new to me, but it's familiar in that it can get really smooth, but if you crank that resonance, you can it can growl.
Mhm.
Cinnamon, especially like if you hit a low bass note or something with that frequency up or pinging it, like it's a cool module. And the Volt Freak is for those of you not familiar, is the coolest digital filter that I have heard to date. So I think those are a good combo because, and you see, like they're right above each other, right? Those two voices. So if you wanted to
Mhm.
go from like an oscillator, VCO2 to Cinnamon or to the Volt Freak, like you can mix and match that kind of stuff because they're pretty close. Um, and I think the next thing that I would look for there is a VCA or a dual VCA of some sort to nicely handle it. Actually, does the Volt Freak have two inputs and outputs? Because there's no point in doing stereo if your
Yep.
filter is in stereo. Oh, so it is. Oh, beautiful. There you go. So yeah, let's get you a dual VCA.
Uh, Veils, perhaps.
I know nothing about Veils. Can you add it and like zoom in? Let's see if it has like some stuff just from the labels. Okay, so that doesn't tell me a bunch other than there's a lot of inputs and outputs and some CV and
Four inputs, offset, attenuators, inverters.
what do y'all think? Help me out here, chat. I don't know. I don't know enough about Veils to answer any questions, but that might be a good VCA potentially. Yeah, so you need a dual VCA there regardless. We can figure out the specific of that. Trying to think of what else. I don't know enough about Cold Mac to help you other than it's like an Obtainium cool module that folks have. With a cool name. Uh, what is Warps again? Someone remind me. I feel like Warps is something I wanted to get at one point, but now I've completely blanked on it. I can't read any of that. I guess I can just look it up here. Warps. QR. Oh, modular grid, your interface is bad. Warps two signals into one. So it's sort of like a wave folder, right? Am I reading that wrong?
Yeah, there's wave folding, crossfading. There's like different, you could select different algorithms with the knob and it.
Yeah, that one might also be a fun one to throw somewhere in the mix, but near those two voices. If wait, do you have warps? I don't know why I was saying warps.
I do.
Is that something you want to use, or do you use it?
I would love to use it.
Um,
Uh, whoops. Boop.
all right, cool. Oh wow, some destruction happened somewhere. Oh
Yeah,
no, that was
reload.
yeah, cool.
Caching.
Um, yeah, and that one, I don't know if that one should be before or after the filters, but that might
Mhm,
be an optimization. Like you could move it like between cinnamon or
mhm,
I don't know. It just depends. Like I don't know. I have a similar module. I have Waver from Bastel, which does some like wave folding and things like that. And I
mhm.
haven't quite figured out the right spot for it, but it doesn't matter too much as long as it's in the neighborhood.
Yeah, okay.
Um, what else? So you got, I think, two full voices there that can output stereo.
Mhm,
Well, they both can do that, but um, I typically start mono. And if you're not doing stereo a lot, like if it turns out you don't use the stereo or need like a dual VCA, you can scrap like you can remove the need for a VCA module and just use the performance mixers VCA, or you can at least free up the VCA module for other
okay.
tasks. And I think we could make a third voice. Another option is you could add a second oscillator next to the spherical wavetable, and then you could have some options there, like just some flavor options, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Brenzo, right?
Yeah.
Which is another dual analog oscillator.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Trying to think what else I would do. Um, I think that's probably all I would do to start with, just to get a feel for whether you want more voices or not.
Sure.
Um,
I mean, this is plenty of voices
the
because we also
Arrow,
have these two polyphonic voices down here.
yeah. Pro modular grid tip: if you hover over a module and then use like the period or the comma keys on your keyboard, it will slide the module as far left or right as it can.
What? Oh my God. Oh my God.
And once you've moved it once, your focus stays on it, so you can like move it back and forth. Caveats are that sometimes the module does the thing where it like slides under 10 modules,
Right.
and then you never see it again. Feature. Um, yeah. So what else? So you got, I don't know much about the Oxy one, or how you're sending MIDI out. Like, how are you distributing? Like, how would you connect the Egan matrix or the polycinematic? Could you do one at a time? Would you have to do one at a time, or could you do both, or like
I
how is that?
have this MIDI buffered mult that I would use if I was, uh, and then just actually, this has MIDI out. Does it?
A MIDI through? Please have a MIDI through. uh,
It
MIDI
doesn't.
in. I
No.
don't see a MIDI through on that one.
This one has MIDI in and out.
If the out is a through on that one, that would
I think you can
save a lot of
configure it to
headache.
be a through.
Yeah.
But if not, I have this, uh, which can just take the MIDI and mult it to anywhere I want.
Yeah, let's my suggestion would be to use those as your third or fourth voice, and I would put them right below the spherical wavetable, so all your voices are near each other and have similar utilities accessible to them, like filters and things like that.
Uh,
As horrible as this is to do, it's just as bad to watch, and it's
oh,
and
great.
I apologize to everybody. Yeah, see, it does that sometimes, and well, yeah, it is what it is. Um, okay, so you got that. I think. Does anyone have any suggestions before we move on to like modulation or filters or anything or effects or anything like that? What's the one to the left of Pam? Oh, that's Oxy. What was it called? The
See,
Oxy Pipe, right? Like
yeah,
it's
it allows you to take an HDMI cable. So the Oxy has mini HDMI out, and then with one cable, you get 8 CV and gates from the one cable.
yeah,
That's pretty sweet.
it's pretty boss companion module, and it comes with the Oxy, um, if I remember correctly.
No,
I
you
don't.
got to pay extra. You got to
You
pay.
got to pay extra. Oh, well, I think that's worth it if you're Euro rack.
Oh, for sure.
Um, Schmooster is saying a simulator is a good place for incidentals, but I'd put triggers on the left of it unless all the triggers are coming up from the bass rows. So right now, I think all the triggers are coming from Euclidean circles and Stolper beats, maybe Pams. I don't know.
And maybe, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of thinking about using it for percussion mostly, but I could certainly. Oh, wait, let's put this in. I want to use that.
Yeah, that's definitely a bottom row or something, or one of the bottom rows.
Maybe here.
Um, Before we talk about that, Bartok has a really good point. So that pipe might
Mm-hmm.
be one that you want to connect to your voices pretty often, like your
Oh, right.
right. So those might be good actually. I would put it probably just to the left of the wavetable navigator so you can sort of spread those things around.
My HDMI cable isn't long enough for it to go up there.
Well, do you have a TV?
Get a
Just steal
longer one.
one from the TV. Like, who needs TV anymore?
Well, no, I don't have. It's the mini end that's the hard part. But I only have.
Oh, it's one of the. I
Yeah,
can send you a link to the ones I use for my GoPros. There's like, is it the micro, like awkward, super tiny one or what? I'm gonna make you big so I can actually see the cable if you hold it up. Oh yeah, I think that's yeah, it's like the mid or tiny one. Yeah. You can yeah, I mean if you do eventually get a longer cable, that's where I would put it is up like near those voices just so to reduce the number like the size of the cables running um, up to them because I think you're going to be running if you're using it you're going to be running the gate and voltage um, per octave to all of those voices, which is a lot of cables to sort of run up.
all right.
Uh,
Well, there we go. I'll get a longer cable.
and even if you don't, like, you could like it's on the edge of your case, so you could like run a group of cables and like put some zip ties or something around them, just around the
Sure,
side.
sure.
You could get around that. Um,
All right. Well, I'll move them later. I'll move it
yeah,
later.
right. That's like an optimization thing. Um, um, what else? Any other suggestions before we? Oh, did we just lose a module? Did warps just disappear? I
Oh, geez, where did it go?
think it's under one of those modules, and I don't know which one.
Uh,
There we go. It's back.
all right, Jesus.
Yep. That is the danger of those hotkeys, by the way. Sometimes that happens, and I just want to throw my computer.
No, that's better.
Uh, we should use hexagonal modules. That's not helpful, Smooster.
I'll throw
um,
the tetragrid in here.
yeah. Okay. So
Funny
you
shapes.
just added is that the SimFunyun?
Yeah,
I know very little about it other than it's both hard to use, but once you get it, it is easy to use. I don't know.
yeah.
Like,
It probably should be closer to the voices that it's driving as well.
well, I feel like that's one that like you kind of want to be like your face needs to be able to read it
Yep.
so near you. But that's where I think something like Plumber or something like that's what Colin Benders essentially did, and that's where I got the idea for a Rack Plumber in my
Can
system.
you send me a link or something?
Yeah, hold on, let me just do that right now, and then you can pull that up. Rack Plumber audio, and there's two different types of Rack Plumbers. Let's see, I'm going to send it in this private chat in Restream.
Okay,
But
thanks.
if you pop it open in that window, there's two different sizes. There's a small one that only has 8, and then there's the HD, which I think has like 16 or something. And they use different cables, but um, they're pretty cool. And the way they work is they're passive, um, great, but they do light up.
Ah,
And yeah, the way it works is like I, put them in, and there's a cable on the back of each that connect to each other. And if
oh, I
I
see.
put like a clock in signaling one and I see on the other one, it'll light up the exact one that has the clock signal with the clock signal until you put something in there, and then the LED
Right.
lamp lights up. There's no voltage loss or anything. So I like those, but there's a handful of modules like that. And
Yeah, it'd probably be
that's
useful for me to
that's a
get.
good use case for it, right? Like you could put one right next to all the outputs there, and then put the other end of the plumber sort of near wherever the stuff is, right? Like
Right.
um,
How many HP is this thing?
I believe it's 8.
Oh, it's 6.
Oh yeah, it's 6 or 4. I believe. Yeah, this one's cool. Um,
So,
yeah, and the more I'm thinking about this, like
mm-hmm.
looking at the current layout, um, how I might actually swap. Can you swap rows easily? Is a good
I
question.
don't know the hotkeys.
Like, I saw it was like a feature somewhere, but I don't know how to do it.
Module, move, mode.
I don't know. It was listed in like the unicorn benefits that I just saw when I purchased it a minute ago. Anyway, so if you could swap rows, I would suggest maybe like the third row down
Yep.
and the top row maybe swap, because I feel like there's fewer hands-on controls with the Egon matrix and the polycinematic compared to all the stuff you might need to fiddle with, particularly the filter. Um, I guess the less you have to hold your arm up like this, the better. Like, I guess is the reasoning.
I've got them all selected, but for some reason,
Let me do a quick search before we do that. uh, let's see. Modular move row. Come on, Google, help me out. Moving rows around. Found a thread. Oh, no one's answered that thread. Uh, Great arrangement. Okay, well, that would be an optimization. That's like what I might suggest, just because.
yeah, I'm not going to want to have my hands up there.
Right. Uh, yeah. So that's one optimization you can make. It doesn't have to be right now because
Mhm.
it's already
Yeah,
dragging Olympic like mouse Olympics
yeah.
right now.
No one wants to watch me do that.
All right, I think we can safely go into like effects stuff now. Like you've got a lot of cool effects between like I saw some like delays. You've got a lot of granular stuff, and you've got some. Well, you've got a distortion module that I think is absolutely awesome. I have the foot pedal version of it that I love,
Hmm.
and I got it to play with my guitar. And I've piped my synth through it a couple times, and both times I did it, it was a very beautiful experience. I should do that more.
Sweet.
um, so I think effects are cool. I like to have them sort of near the mixer. I don't know what you all think about that, but I like it near the mixer, particularly if it's a stereo effect, just
Hmm.
to reduce cable clutter just a tad. Um, but also, like, I don't necessarily know what modules I want to put through the effects, and I just do know that the effects need to go to the mixer. So, like, that's my reasoning for it.
Right.
I don't know. There's some effects that like are on specific duty and probably won't change. Like my data bender is probably only ever going to be connected to drums because I love the way it sounds.
Hmm.
Uh, but so I could put that near my drums, but I have it. I actually have it near the mixer as well. So here's all the we've got a lot of stuff happening. Um, I would say either Magneto or Starlab are a no brainer. And I
Hmm.
say either because they are the same footprint, so you could swap one for the other pretty quickly. Um, what else? I don't know anything
I
about.
want to use Aurora for sure.
Oh yeah, that one's cool.
Um,
And then
cornflakes.
you also had the game changer audio, whatever it's called, distortion,
Oh yes, the
plasma drive.
yes.
like I think from my experience, distortion isn't like as necessary. So you really only need maybe like one distortion module.
Okay.
And I also don't use a ton of reverb. I like delay a little more than reverb. Uh,
Hmm.
but I think you've got a
I
fair
can.
amount of like between Strymon, Aurora, that covers like some reverbs and delays and things like that. I don't know if there's like a ping pong delay or something like that you want, but I tend to avoid those because I'm bad at using them. Let's see. I'm going to check chat. Submixers. Yeah, we should talk about submixers in a second. That's something I overlooked, and Forrestine was like, "Hey, how are you going to mix this stuff together?" And I was like, magic. Like, so I had to add some. And actually, I find submixers plus switches are really fun. I don't know if there's a module specifically for that, but what I like to do is like uh, run like two two versions of the same signal. So like let's say I have the same voice going into two different filters, and I
Hmm.
take the output of each of those filters with their own flavor into like mutes, so switches that turn each one off or on, and then the output of that into a submixer. And the reason I don't just use mutes is sometimes those voices have wildly different volume levels. So, like if I go through an MS-22 style filter or MS-20 style filter, the volume level tends to go down a little bit. Um, and if I then have the second signal going through something like a hotter filter or in my case, Trash Master, which adds a little distortion, so it's overdriving a bit. I need to turn that second one down, but now I can switch between those two or turn them both on, which is kind of fun. So I like being able to do that kind of stuff. So submixers were a pro tip from Forrestine that I very much love, and Schmooster and Bartok are also recommending them. Um, so like I don't know what you have in terms of other mixers. You've got the I don't know if the Lion is a good for submixing. I but yeah, put them sort of near those voices, and you'll be good. You got the Lion. You've got I again don't know about enough about these modules to make specific recommendations. Um, I'm using boring old like I have a couple. I have a Pico, like Ericsson's Pico mixer, a 2 HP mixer, and Cinnamon, which is like a Bastel mixer, and they're all like the same thing essentially, like
Hmm.
3 to 4 inputs and an output. Um,
I mean, between Frames and Lion, Leon, whatever, it's that's probably good. Maybe I
yeah,
should put.
I mean that's a good start. I mean,
And then I have, these will be useful. Uh, I have two of those, and
what are those that you just added? Just out of curiosity, I didn't see.
it's 3, 2, 1.
Okay, and
It's
what?
attenuator. It does
Oh,
modulation, multiple as well.
oh, yeah. So is it a normal signal? So if you put something in the red, all
It
three outputs have the
cascades
same.
down. Yeah.
Yes, those are so freaking cool. Those are the kind of mults that I think a lot of modules that have like that. I have a handful of noise engineering modules that do something similar. So they have like a function, and then they have a bunch like you can also just use it as a buffered mult or a mult, depending on
And
the module.
this also, this is also uh, mult as well, and does attenuation if it's too hot.
Oh, that's interesting. So it brings
Minus
it
60B switch here.
cool. That one I don't know where to put those, and I think that's gonna have to be like,
I'll figure it out.
yeah, you're gonna have to be like, okay, I keep seeing that. I wish this signal was multed more. Like, let's put
Hmm.
this near that thing.
Right.
Um, I really like I like mults near, like I might, just to start with, put one near like the uh didn't you have an envelope on that top voice somewhere? Am I just not seeing it because it's too blurry?
Did it get buried?
Oh, it's that one. It's the phalustry, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I might put one just next to the phalustry, because what I really like to do is I like to take the output of the envelope, molt it, and use it for VCA filter, sometimes PWM, sometimes like other random things, panning. I don't know. Like there's a lot of different ways you can use it. So that'd be a handy place to have one.
All right,
To
I'll
start
put one
with.
here too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure this is the right place for that, but
It's a good start. Like
maybe
it's
I'll
not,
move
yeah.
these effects over here.
Yeah. And yeah. And if there's a stereo effect that you use regularly with stereo, like that's a good one to have like right above the send and return on the performance mixer. So the send and return is on the left side of the performance mixer. And then there's also two stereo inputs on the, well, I think you might have more, but there's some stereo
Yeah,
inputs on
there's
the
more
right side of it.
stereo inputs on this side.
Yeah, so that's another good spot for some stereo effects to be
Okay,
near.
I'm gonna move this down for now.
Yeah.
Stereo effects here.
And actually that's a really good ordering, like in terms of where the performance mixer and was it ES9 or something, are, because if the cables cover the ES9, like the output cable,
Right.
or cover the performance mixer, it doesn't really matter when you're sending the outputs to your computer. So that's cool. I do wish the performance mixer had like an expander that was just like individual channel out, so I could pull a specific channel out and essentially use a channel as a VCA.
Yeah, I mean, you could use their DB25 thing and then
Yeah, I wasn't into that.
yeah, because
Guess
you
I
lose
could do that.
control over it. You can't do anything with it.
Yeah. It's a great idea. I just, yeah. Mm, all right. Does anybody have any like questions or ideas before we move forward? Because like the sub mixers is an awesome idea. Um, and I think utilities are handy. Like do you have some attenuverters you can sprinkle in here too? You already put
Probably.
one in, I believe.
Oh, well, I have a couple of these. These are great.
Are those attenuverters?
Just
Or just
attenuators.
okay, yeah, those right next to your sub mixers, pretty handy in case you need to mess with like signals. I mean, wherever you put them isn't like going to hurt anything.
Yeah, well, it's cool to have these because they all have volume pots on them
Yeah,
already. So let me
yeah,
do this and
yeah.
that, and then maybe
I'm going to look that one up because just don't remember.
which one? 321.
No, the A10. That's WMD if I remember right. Okay, gotta reset. 10.
Maybe I want the mutes on the other side. How did I have that set up before?
Jeez, why can't I find this? WMD. Okay, 14 and offset. So you can invert it. Yeah, it does have offsets, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think attenuating envelope signals is pretty fun too.
Oh yeah.
Or attenuverting, like inverting the signal. Vertical columns is my best ever layout idea. A voice in a vertical column. If your goal is to have as many cables in front of the
Yeah,
controls as possible.
just make it look as crazy as possible.
I mean, it would work with some modules. Like there's some that have inputs on the top and outputs on the bottom, etc. But like, I don't know. That's funny. Yeah. Anyway, Um, so okay, so we've got some sub mixers, got some attenuverters. Um, Let me just look at my case real quick. What else? What else we got? Like, oh, that could be fun.
Definitely need more modulation.
Well, right now your drums are pretty sparse, so it's not a big deal. But if you added more drums to sort of the drum area, you might want a drum submixer too. Uh,
Mm.
like right now, it's
Or
one
maybe
module.
I could use the Lion with one of these
Yeah,
in combination
yeah.
for drums.
And Morphogene really likes drums too, so I think Morphogene's not in a bad spot. Like it could be up with your effects. Like I would consider that typically an effect. That's pretty fun to play with. Um, but what was I? What else was I looking at? Okay, so tell me more about the SimFunyun. It's one of those modules that I have not looked into because I haven't been particularly
It's an
interested.
Uber quantizer, so it takes an input and then um, basically has 5 different outputs. So channel 1, channel 2, channel 3 are leads, and then or whatever,
Yeah,
and then you have a chord channel and an arpeggio channel. So you can send those outs to any of your voices, and they
right.
will
That's
stay
what I
in
remember. It's sort of
tune.
like you
And
can feed in like a single signal, right? Like a
yeah,
single
you feed
send
it a
it a C or
signal.
something. You could make tell it like, okay, I want the chords to be like this, etc. And it just
Yep, and
does
then
all
you
the
pick
magic
it
for
for
you.
each of the channels. You pick the notes that are playing, and for the chords and arpeggio, you can change the spread and the pitch, and then you can do that by a CV as well.
Okay, cool.
So it's just a way to get all of your modules to speak the same language, and obviously, once they're tuned, once the analog oscillators are tuned, it's it's it basically, like I always want to do polyphony, and I always want multiple voices working together in tandem, and this is really the only solution that I've found for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a machine. From my understanding, it's a machine. Like I think it's like a jam machine. Like you can,
Yeah,
if you once
yeah,
you get the hang
you
of that
you
thing.
want it right in front of you. It's very playable. It's very
Yeah.
intuitive. Like there's a
Okay.
little bit of a learning curve at the beginning, but once you sort of get the paradigm, it's I use it all the time.
All right. So I might also put, um, I might scooch that over a little bit to the right, with the idea that your rack plumber would still be to the left of it,
Yep,
and then I think you have a voltage block, right?
yep.
I don't know if you've used it a lot or if you like it, but
I have
I've
not.
so far enjoyed it. Um, Particularly, like my first recommendation to experiment with the voltage block is like come up with a really basic like bass line or something, like a single
Mhm.
voice sequence, and then just sequence the CV of the filter with the voltage block. Super
Okay.
fun way to add flavor. Um, yeah, and I would put a gap between that one and the SimFunyun so that you could send the outputs from that also into the rack plumber.
Okay, right. Yes, it
Um,
seems like rack plumbers are in my immediate future.
I think if you get a large case, like it makes a lot. It starts making a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very
So,
cool.
and the Oxy thing should go next to the SimFunyun too. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, just put it between the SimFunyun and the rack plumber, uh, just because it doesn't matter if the SimFunyun cables cover it. Like
Right.
it doesn't have any controls on it, and some of its outputs are also going to be going to the same places. So yeah, it's a pretty good idea there. Smart, good call, Bartok. Yeah, I think you have like kind of a boss case right now. Like the only things I think that might be missing, or maybe a utility here and there to get started. But
Maybe some more modulation. I could put Maestro in.
yep,
That's pretty awesome.
yep,
Let me just
modulation.
look to see. I mean, I could put all my Droid stuff in there, and then that's utility that is changed just by programming.
What is the Droid stuff? I just don't
So the
remember.
Droid system is Matthias Kettner, who created the SimFunyun. It's his
Yep.
follow-up. It's
Okay.
basically a scriptable system that handles any kind of CV. Doesn't do audio, but it basically does anything you tell it to. But you do have to specifically tell it to do things.
Interesting.
You could make a SimFunyun out of it. You can
What
do LFOs. You can do. I mean, it's.
I mean, it sounds really cool, but my instinct is that until you have a very specific idea for it, it doesn't hurt to not be in the case, and then you can add it where it needs to be.
I actually have enough room to take my shuttle system out of its case and put it in here, the whole thing.
Yeah, why not? Like that seems like a good no-brainer. I don't think you need to fill this up either, by the way.
Yeah,
I think
I
holes are
don't
fine.
want to fill it up because then it's impossible to do.
Yeah. Yeah, but the shuttle system, is that all one piece? I can't remember.
Yep.
Okay. So that's trivial. Couple of screws.
And it'll get me to use it because if it's not on my desk, I'm not going to use it.
Schmooster is very excited about the Droid system.
Oh, who?
Schmooster.
I can't see the. I can't see the chat.
Oh, here. I don't know if this link.
Yeah, Droid System's awesome. Their latest module is called the X7. It does MIDI, and it also makes it so that it used to be that you have to, in order to program it, you'd have to take the SD card out, put it in your computer, write your little script or update it, save it, and then put it back in and reset it. And now with the USB MIDI thing also allows you to just update it on the fly.
Oh yeah, see, I want more USB ports on the front, and I understand due to the design of USB ports and panels that it's not like easy, but I would love to be able to do that. Like I think like the big honking button and some of these, that's the first one that comes to mind because that's the one that it's Python that I can easily mess with. But like any of the ones that you need to update or whatever, USB on the front makes sense. Or at least an SD card. But okay, let's see. Yeah. I guess I don't know enough about the Droid system to make any recommendations around that. In modulation, I would put like almost dead center.
Okay.
Well, you do have the rack plumber, right?
Yep.
So you could keep that one lower.
When this call is over, I'm going to be purchasing 2 or 3 rack plumbers.
I mean, it's $100 for a pair or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. It's maybe a little bit more for the HD, so the slightly beefier version that has twice as many inputs. But 145 for two.
Oh, that's not bad. I didn't realize this was for a pair of them.
No, that's for a pair.
18 mono or 17 mono and 1 stereo.
Yeah. The HD is pretty rad. The only reason I didn't get the HD is because I liked the other cable better and I didn't really need as many inputs. So,
well, I will definitely use these inputs.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm looking at your modulation, and I would keep as many like. You see how on the SimFunyun it's next to I can't remember the name of that modulator, but to the modulator to the right, how those jacks will cover the SimFunyun's controls if you put them into the rack plumber. I might swap, like I might put it next on the other side next to the whatchamacallit, the voltage block. Jeez.
So wait,
Reach
put
the
the
end point right.
Oxy Pipe over here, or put
No, I would leave the pipe right next to where it was. I would just move the SimFunyun more to the right a little bit, um, to make space so that the Maestro can be next to the voltage block with the rack plumber in between everything. And you can sort of fiddle around with where things are, but yeah, like I think for those main controllers, especially the SimFunyun, like keeping their uh, buttons unobstructed is ideal. It's not necessary. It's just ideal.
mhm.
Yeah, I think the shuttle control is an awesome system. Uh, that putting there isn't a bad idea either because it means that like if you wanted to, you could pull everything out of pipes, go directly into shuttle control, and just play the shuttle control. Like,
Right?
um, that's pretty cool. And it's easy enough to swap in and out because it's
Yep.
one thing. Um,
This gives me a lot of functionality. These probably should move, maybe
I,
down here,
yeah,
and then we'll leave that upper right just empty.
yeah. I mean, that gives you a lot of like module swap ability. Like if you need to add more oscillators or whatever the thing is, you can do that. Like I don't think you need to fill it. Um, but now you've got like an effects sort of district. You got a handful of voices with like a wave folder sort of near things. Like you got a lot of stuff that you can play with this one. And you've got the play as well, like the poly play. So if you want to do some drums, that's one way to do it.
Mhm.
Like I think the Stolper Beats likes a handful of stuff of
Mhm.
drums. You could add a couple more drums modules if you wanted to, but I don't.
Well, between the
If you're,
quad drum and assimilator, I have 14 channels or 12 channels worth of percussion
I
potentially.
yeah, and I think like there's a limit to what at least I can do with drums. I think around 8 is ideal,
Yeah,
max.
that was my idea with the
But
simulator, just to use it for drums, which is
yeah,
it's kind of ridiculous to just use it for drums, but
right. So you could use it for other things as well. I don't know. Maybe the assimilator might need to be moved too. We'll see.
mhm.
It might make sense in another spot, but that's not a bad spot to start with, I think. Um, and there's other drum channels that can be used for things like mutes, for example. So if you've got I don't know how the quad drums works or whatever, but like if you have something a module that accepts other inputs like accents inputs or like a reset input, like my ADSR has a reset,
Mhm.
um, and it's pretty cool because you sort of sequence it like a drum, but what it can do is like uh, gate the end of a note, like immediately hard cut that note,
Mm.
which is kind of fun. So that's a fun way to use extra drums channels and stuff too. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think that looks like an awesome system, and it's a good start. And it's not like there's a lot of gaps and things, but you could fill those with some of your blanks if you really wanted to, or you could just jam on it. 6 hours after screwing in way too many bolts.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. What do y'all think? Is there anything else? I think Bartok has to bail. Yeah, I think that's it.
It's a good start.
Yeah,
I'm excited to do it, and yeah, I feel like it's a little bit more focused and still gives me tons and tons of options.
yeah, and you're starting with like a well, minimal isn't the right word, but for what you had before, you're starting with enough of a minimal setup where you can say like, okay, this is really working. I'm jamming on this. I wish I had X in here now, and
Right.
you can add that module versus like having to like figure out okay, which modules am I not using,
Yeah,
or
like I would imagine I will put my ER301 in just because it's so useful. Um,
Yeah.
but probably belongs down here or close to the mixer. So maybe I'll do this.
Yeah, I mean, that works too,
I use
because that's a good
the
spot for the
recorder.
Morphogene. And you could probably even run a few of those like stereo effects modules in series. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think most of them have like a mix knob that you can turn the mix all the way dry, if you don't want to use them, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's the ER101? Is that the one you just put in there?
Yeah, the ER301
Oh,
is
301.
it's the orthogonal devices sound computer. It does everything, but I mostly use it for recording audio and some
Oh yeah.
as well.
Okay, then yeah, that's a good spot for it. Cool. Um, yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I think this is
Yeah, this looks
awesome.
great.
Um,
Thank you so much for all the help. I appreciate everybody.
yeah. And then like to follow up, we also talked a little bit about before the stream about like enthusiastic electrons, because enthusiastic electrons is like a perfect example of somebody who's made a lot of these like single purpose little skiffs that are fun add-on sort of skiffs.
Right.
Um, and I think you've got enough like sort of skiffy cases and things that you could do the same thing. So if you wanted like a granular case or like I don't know,
Right.
whatever the theme is, if you're
Yeah,
feeling like
that makes more sense than trying to put everything because I just got an amalgamod case, and you know I just want to be able to set it up so that each boat by itself has some outputs, so that
I
I'll
would set
simply
that up in the same like with the same type of thinking, like not necessarily like the same voices or oscillators or any of that, but like
yeah
I need this. I know I need a mixer to start there. Like I know I need a couple of these utilities, right? Okay, I want a voice, like, and you can do a similar exercise with the amalgamod
yeah
case. Pretty
I'll
cool.
sort of use this as a guide now that I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
this. Like, oh, when I want to put together a system, I'll use this and this and this.
yeah, yeah. And some of like just to like give you a little more like abstract thought or something to chew on is with those like micro cases. Like I think I don't know what your smallest case is, but like the maybe the
84, 60 maybe.
yeah, something like that. Like enthusiastic electrons is making cases that are like I don't know 40 or something, right?
Right.
Like and they might have like a delay. Well, it's usually like a delay, maybe like a filter or something, and like one other thing. Like you can make little micro ideas like that in those cases that are pretty fun to just play with,
Mm-hmm.
both on their own and with the big stuff. So yeah.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna call this one because I don't want to take up all day.
Well,
Uh,
thank you so much.
yeah, you're welcome. It was fun. This is a fun one. It was cool. It's cool to see the range of modules you have because you're like there's a lot of cool stuff in there, and I think another cool thing about like having all the spaces available is it's less like with a small case you're having to fight for every HP you swap out. So if you like did get like a demon core or something, you're like, okay, which three modules do I
Yeah,
sacrifice? And those modules
exactly.
might be in different parts of the case. So then you have to rearrange the whole case to fit one. Like you're in a good spot where you just like plop in the demon core somewhere, right?
Right.
Like um, that's a cool spot to be in. So it'll be cool to see what you do with that.
Yeah, this feels a lot better. It feels more manageable, both more manageable and like purposeful.
Yeah, for sure. I can't wait to see what you do with it. If you want to like try some like EMS streams, I think I've sent you the link for that stuff. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
good place to test out stuff for sure, and get some ideas because like the same crew will probably be watching, depending
Cool.
on the day. But yeah, so thanks everybody. Thanks for the
All
good
right.
suggestions. I'll keep an eye out for more. I think Benjamin may or may not be watching this, and Benjamin has like I don't know. He's like uh, the wise modular. A master. I don't know. It's the wrong word, but like I don't know. He knows everything, so he'll probably have some additional insight and thoughts.
Yeah,
Too.
I'm open to it. So thanks a lot.
All right, have a good one, y'all. I'm not gonna do outro music because it's like too hot in this room already, and I want to go someplace where it's less hot. All right.
All right, take it easy, but take it.